All right, let's dive right into this explainer and look at a highly logical, completely shame-free framework to redefine your relationship with alcohol. If you've ever felt like your drinking habits are kind of just running on autopilot, and you're frankly tired of the guilt that follows, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're unpacking the mechanics of habit and control, pulling directly from a system known as the off switch.
Okay, so I want to start off with a slightly absurd question. Why can you effortlessly control your banana intake, but not your wine? Seriously, think about it. When you eat a banana, one is a great snack. Maybe if you're absolutely starving, you'd eat two. But if someone handed you an entire bunch, it would be incredibly easy to just say no, right? You know exactly when you've had enough. So why does that natural biological signal completely vanish the second you pop open a bottle of wine?
Well, to solve this mystery, here's our roadmap for today. First, the missing feedback loop. Then, the willpower myth. Next, our three-step methodology. The drink plan, embracing cravings, and evaluating progress. And finally, your new reality.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the missing feedback loop.
We really need to explore why you might be highly successful, super organized, and totally in control in literally every other area of your life, yet still find yourself occasionally over-drinking. It all comes down to a concept called negative feedback. Now, I know negative sounds, well, bad, but in engineering and biology, it's actually the holy grail of stability. By definition, it's a control system where the required action is the exact opposite of the condition that triggered it. Think of your car as cruise control. If you start going too fast down a steep hill, the system applies the brakes to slow you down. If you're going too slow up a hill, it gives the engine more gas. Negative feedback is just the natural biological signal that tells a quote-unquote normal drinker they've simply had enough.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates the real issue. You don't have a character flaw, you just have a faulty feedback system. A normal drinker has proportional negative feedback. They have a glass of wine, their desire drops, and they naturally stop. But if you struggle to stop, you likely have what's called a positive feedback system. Positive feedback essentially screams, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You have one drink and your brain goes, great, let's have another. It is literally an all-or-nothing system error. The beauty of seeing it this way, system errors can actually be mechanically fixed.
Moving right along to Section 2, the willpower myth.
You see, there's basically a battle happening inside your head between two competing forces. First, you've got your prefrontal cortex. This is your rational, long-term planner. It's the part of you that decides to go for a morning run or, save for retirement. Then you have your lizard brain. This part is incredibly impulsive. It's essentially a reward-seeking toddler living inside your skull that only cares about the here and now. The thing is, willpower is not a permanent character trait. It's a finite resource. Think of it like a water bottle. Every single decision you make during the day takes a sip out of that bottle. By 6 p.m., your willpower bottle is completely empty, leaving your dopamine-chasing lizard brain entirely in charge right when those evening wine cravings hit. Because of this whole brain battle, traditional fight-or-flight advice practically guarantees you'll eventually give in. Relying on willpower to resist is just exhausting. Avoiding triggers entirely works, well, until you're unexpectedly handed a free glass of champagne on a flight. And distracting yourself by staying busy, that just puts you in a permanent state of tension. These methods don't rewire your brain. They literally just delay the inevitable.
Which brings us to Section 3, Step 1, the drink plan.
The absolute crucial point here is that we have to bypass willpower entirely. How? By answering these 4 simple questions, strictly 24 hours in advance, putting your rational prefrontal cortex firmly in the driver's seat. You decide. When is the plan for? What exactly will you drink? How much? And crucially, why are you choosing to drink? Making these decisions a day ahead of time completely eliminates those exhausted, in-the-moment negotiations your lizard brain loves to initiate at the end of a long day.
Now, this is a massive mindset shift. The number of drinks on your plan is actually far less important than the way you execute it. Initially, you should plan for what you are genuinely willing to do, even if it's your normal heavy amount. Actually, scratch that, especially if it's your normal amount. Why? Because the primary goal right now isn't to drink less. It is simply to build unshakable self-trust. You are teaching yourself that when you make a plan, you follow it, period.
Next up is Section 4, Step 2, Embrace Cravings.
But what happens when you make a plan, the evening rolls around, and that lizard brain throws an absolute tantrum demanding more than you planned for? Well, this next step is incredibly counterintuitive. Instead of using those failed tactics of resisting, avoiding, or distracting yourself, you're going to just embrace it. Lean in. Let yourself feel the desire fully. Let the craving wash over you, and just let it burn itself out without rewarding it with a drink. Remember, a craving is literally just a feeling, and feelings cannot physically force you to pour a glass of wine.
You execute this by using a really straightforward framework. Stop, look, and listen. First, stop. Interrupt the autopilot and actually say out loud, "I am having a craving." Second, look. Drop into your body as a neutral, curious scientist. Where do you feel the tension? Is your face flushed? Is your stomach tight? And third, listen. What feeling are you truly seeking here? Are you really thirsty for wine, or are you just desperately seeking a boundary between your stressful workday and your evening? When you observe your cravings like a scientist, they completely lose their terrifying power over you.
The source material actually suggests a brilliant way to gamify this whole process. Aim for 100. The goal is to successfully embrace 100 cravings without giving in. Track this process. Use a star chart on your fridge or, drop a piece of pasta into a jar every single time you sit through a craving without drinking. By the time you hit 100, you won't just have survived, you'll have entirely rewired your automatic habits. Your brain will finally learn that a craving does not automatically equal a reward.
All right, Section 5, Step 3, Evaluate Progress.
Naturally, you're gonna make mistakes. You're trying to rewire decades of habitual behavior. Whenever you slip up, and for sure you will, you do not go back to day one. That is all or nothing thinking, and we're leaving that behind. Instead, view a slip-up simply as a temporary skills shortage. When a toddler falls while learning to walk, we don't say they're fundamentally broken, we know they're just learning the skill. So ask yourself these 3 compassionate questions. What worked? Force yourself to list 3 positive things. Then, what didn't work? And finally, what could I do differently next time? This data-driven curiosity gets you right back on track without the crippling shame.
And monitoring a trend line, rather than obsessing over day-to-day fluctuations? That is the ultimate game changer. If the line is trending upward, it's an early warning system to catch subtle increases before they become a full-blown crisis. If it's going downward, it is visual, undeniable proof of your progress. And once it's flat, you've successfully achieved stabilized, permanent control.
Finally, Section 6, Your New Reality.
Let's fast forward a bit. What actually happens when you string these 3 steps, plan, embrace, and evaluate, together over the coming weeks and months? Well, as you practice this, your milestones will evolve. First, you'll find true comfort with planning ahead. Then the magic happens. You start feeling entirely neutral toward alcohol. The need for willpower just vanishes. Social invitations stop causing you hidden anxiety. You reclaim true relaxation, knowing how to de-stress without a glass in your hand. Ultimately, you develop an unshakable self-trust. You achieve a genuine take-it-or-leave-it attitude because your brand new proportional negative feedback system is fully installed. I absolutely love this quote from the source material. Plan your drinking around your life instead of planning your life around drinking. By shifting the blame away from a moral failing or a character flaw and correctly identifying it as a simple system error, you empower yourself. You build a life that is no longer dictated by what happens to be sitting in the fridge at 6 p.m.
And that leaves us with the most exciting takeaway from this entire explainer. Seriously, ask yourself, if you can master this, what else are you capable of? Because once you realize you are truly the boss of this deeply ingrained habit, once you build this unshakable trust in your own promises, your potential in literally every other area of your life becomes totally limitless. So, what's your next big goal going to be? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope it completely changes the way you look at your own off switch.